Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokemon Emerald video. In the past few weeks I have used both Scyther and Pinsir, the two single stage bug types from Generation 1, so it's about time I use Heracross, which is the same thing but from Generation 2, and see how it ranks compared to the other two guys. I have never used Heracross much in the Pokemon games because I remember it was kinda hard to find in his original generation. I think you had to headbutt some trees and he was only in some of them and it was rare, so yeah, a bit of a mess. Now for the rules, I can only use my starter in combat, I can't use items from my bag in battle, I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. The main difference compared to the other two bug types is the fact that Heracross is a part fighting type. This may help it with access to more fighting moves and having stab on them, but it might also hurt since it makes me 4 times weak to flying types. For the early game, the typing does not matter too much considering that most of the enemies only use normal moves, and I too only have access to normal moves. Thanks to my great attack stat, Tackle does okay damage even though it's a pretty garbage move, and with that we can defeat our rival in a little time. Next we have the introduction to Wally and all of that stuff, until we reach the forest where we find the grunt harassing a regular guy. As usual, we defeat him with not too much effort, and once we are done with that, we have to grind a bit more because the next obstacle is going to be the first gym leader. Even though he is a part fighting type, Heracross does not get any fighting moves until a bit higher. I tried defeating her at level 17, but that did not work, so I went and leveled up a bit more. I came back at level 20, still with no fighting move, but at this point Horn Attack, after a couple of years, does okay damage, and it might just be enough to get me through this fight. The two Geodudes were not that big of a deal, but the main wall in this fight was Nosepass, because for whatever reason it really loved to spam Harden over and over again. While this gives me some free turns to attack him, my hits will do no damage after just a couple of buffs, so instead I have to hope for a few crits to break through all of that defense. Even though they are only a 1 in 16 chance, I end up getting a crit, which helps me out a ton, and after she stalls me a bit with potions and berries and whatnot, I am finally able to defeat her ace and get the first badge of the game. Next we have the usual stuff with the company, and before leaving town we have to face the optional fight against May. Even though her starter is now at a higher level and knows Ember, this one was very easy since Horn Attack is enough to one-shot all of her Pokemons. Next up is Brawly, even though I only have physical moves. Bug type resists fighting moves, so I hope that even if he boosts a little bit, I will be able to survive. Well, turns out my expectations were wrong, and I am able to somehow one-shot all of his Pokemons for a super easy win. This run might be easier than I was expecting. Then we go to Slateport, where we have to rescue another guy from the Team Aqua Grunts, and this time it's going to be very easy too, since all of their Pokemons are quite easy to one-shot with one Horn Attack each. Even though I misclicked and used Brick Break against Zubat, who 4-time resists fighting moves, I still end up one-shotting him, so they had no chance at all. After defeating them and listening to Archie for a while, we can resume our training because our next obstacle is going to be the May 2 fight. This one is a tad bit more scary because her starter has now evolved, so it's going to be quite a bit stronger. But unfortunately for her, Brick Break is still super strong with Stab and is able to break through her team with no problem. After defeating May 2, it's time to face the next gym, Watson and his electric types. Once again, Brick Break is going to be the star of the show since it is neutral against his pure electric types and is even super effective against Magneton. So today Watson is not going to have a fun day. Serves him well for all the time I had to rage against him. Now that we have his badge too, we can use Rock Smash to explore more of the region until we stumble upon the two teams in Meteorfall Caves. After this encounter, we can climb the local volcano and find Maxie about to wake up Groudon, or I think that's what he was about to do. To stop him, we challenge him to a fight, and here unfortunately is where the problems start. Mytiena has Intimidate, which is going to be very annoying for us in this run because unlike Pinsir, Heracross does not have Hypercutter, so all of the attack drops are going to affect our ability to defeat foes. For now it was still easy, but it might be a problem later on. The next gym is Flannery, who uses fire types, so this could be a problem. Since I do not have any boosting move, I tried to spam Brick Break and hope for the best. I knew it would not be enough to one-shot Torkoal, but fortunately one overhit is not enough to take me down, so I have enough time to attack the turtle a second time to defeat it. Well, that was kinda close, but went better than I expected. Now that we have her badge too, it's time to defeat our dad, who uses normal types, so easy. And not really. First I got slapped and then defeated, so I went on the offensive, but I got countered. Yeah, this was a bit problematic. In the end, I only had to retry it a few times until I got decent RNG with slacking. I was a bit surprised that he was able to solo me 2 times in a row. I guess that's what happens when you underestimate a 600 plus base power Pokemon. Anyway, eventually we get his badge too and can resume our journey now that we can use Surf. With it we can reach the Weather Institute where more Team Aqua guys are kidnapping people. You know, when I was a kid I had the game Sapphire, and even in that the Team Aqua was less evil than it is right here. Not sure what happened to them. Anyway, the next fight is against the rival May. As usual, her team at this point is not very strong, but here I have to make a bit of a confession. I played this run very badly. I could have used Heracross in a much smarter and probably better way, because for most of the game I ignored his ability Guts, and I also forgot to teach him Bulk Up. Both of those things increased his attack substantially and could have been enough to save me some of the trouble, like the resets against Norman, or even the few resets against Winona too. Then again, I am 4 times weak to flying, so maybe I would have died here anyway. The flying type gym leader is a bit of a problem, as you might expect, but not a huge deal. Compared to many other runs where I was using a bug or a fighting type, Heracross did quite decent for himself, even if I used him very poorly. Unfortunately, his base attack is nowhere near enough to one-shot everything, so the enemy Pokémons had enough time to attack me a few times and bring me sort of low. Now that we have the flying badge, we can reach the next town over, where we find May for the last optional fight. Initially, I wanted to defeat her, not only to include her in the video, but because she blocks access to the mall. In the top floor of this building, there is a woman who teaches you Substitute, which could be quite helpful later on to maybe survive a few attacks or ignore some RNG moves. Anyway, the fight against May was not particularly hard, although it is never hard, and with her defeated for the last time, we can go grab the magma emblem. Having this key item in our pocket lets us access the cave where Groudon resides, and as soon as we arrive, we see Maxie wake him up. Unfortunately, this fight is also one where I lose a few times. Crobat is just way too powerful with flying moves. This is another spot where having bulk up might have helped quite a bit, or Guts, but that ability is a bit annoying to deal with when you have multiple trainers to fight. Because if you are poisoned or burned, your HP will get lower and lower every time, and so I have to spend a bunch of potions. After stopping Maxi, we have to infiltrate the Team Aqua base, where we find only one of their admirals, and once again this fight was not super hard, even though he has a Golbat who hurts a lot with a wing attack. Now that we have defeated this guy too, the whole sea opens up for us, so there is a lot of training and grinding ahead of me. After a while, I think I'm ready to face Tate and Liza. Unfortunately, those guys are super effective on me, so this might be hard. On the other hand, while I was leveling up, Heracross learned Mega Horn, which is the best bug move in the game. While not very accurate, it has a lot of base power, and thanks to Stab, it is by far my best move. Between that and the Brick Break, the Psychic team, who is super effective on me, did not really stand a chance. And in the end, the only thing they hit me with is a fire move. That's a bit weird, but I'll take it. Once Soul Rock falls too, we have acquired the penultimate badge, and after that we have to do the other double team in the island. This one somehow ends up being a bit more spicy than the last one, because they have a few troublesome Pokémons for us. First off, it's Maitiena, who, even though he is weak to both fighting and bug moves, is still an annoyance with Intimidate. But the most threatening part of their team is the two Bat Pokémons. Both Crobat and later Golbat have flying moves, and thanks to my 4-time weakness, even a single attack is almost enough to one-shot me. That is very scary. Fortunately, things line up just right for me to defeat the Golbat before he can attack me, and with that the match is secured in my favor. Now that we have the Dive HM2, we can use it to explore the depths of the sea, and eventually we reach the seafloor cave, where we have to face Archie. He is here to awaken the other legendary, and since we do not want that to happen, we have another fight with him. As with all of those fights, the main problem is Crobat by far, but thanks to Return having good base power, we can defeat the Bat in 2 hits before he can do the same to me. Sharpedo is very frail, so that was not a problem. Even though we won the match against him, the red orb activates on its own, and so it awakens the Kyogre. That's not good, because with both of the legendaries alive, they create a bit of a mess. To put a stop to the weather wars, we have to go wake up Rayquaza. He is kind enough to shout at the other two Pokémons and convince them to stop their bickering. Now that we have saved the world, we can start the last gym. Juan loves his water types, like many trainers in this region, and fortunately for us, they do not have any great move against me. I was also happy to see that a Megahorn was enough to one-shot Kingdra. I definitely did not want to deal with his double team BS. Brick Break is also a quite good move here, since it is super effective on a few of his Pokémons, and with no trouble at all, we were able to earn the last badge of the game. Now that we have all of them, we can enter the Victory Road, and here we find Wally. His team is a bit dangerous, mostly because of the Altaria, who knows Aerial Ace. At least he does not crit, so I am still standing after one hit. With the Cloud Dragon defeated, the rest of the team is much simpler to deal with, mostly because they are all a one-shot, either by a super effective move or a regular normal move. Oh, also, you might have noticed that I took the time to go get Substitute. Well, spoiler alert, that will never be used, because I finally remembered that I can learn Bull Cap. Yay, better late than never, I guess. Anyway, with that move, I was hoping to breeze through the league, and while that was sort of the case, it was not super simple. Thanks to Stab, even without any attack buffs, Sidney was quite easy with a Brick Break for each of his Pokémons. What might be a bit harder is Pheobe, since all of my moves are not great against her, but I grabbed Earthquake and taught it to Heracross. This time I do need the buffs, but I misclick, so that was bad. Fortunately, her Dusclops is kind enough to not curse me on the first turn, but instead confuses me. I end up hitting myself as he spams Protect over and over, and eventually I manage to sneak through one more Earthquake to defeat it. That should not have gone my way, but I'll take it. Once I finally have some respite, I can use Bulk Up to increase my attack a bit, and with this extra power, Earthquake should be enough to one-shot the rest of her team, especially Sableye, who as always loves to use double team strategies. The extra Bulk Ups against Dusclops were not necessary and almost costed me a loss thanks to a last minute crit, but even though it was close, I won. Glacia is the third member, and unfortunately I had to forget the Brick Break for Phoebe. This leaves me with no super effective moves for the Ice-type trainer, but fortunately after a couple of Bulk Ups, one return should be enough to take care of most Pokémons in her team. I did not have much to worry about her team. The only thing that could spell my doom is a freeze from one of her ice moves, but that's only a 10% chance, so hopefully that will not happen. I also took the time to set up another Bulk Up here and there, because I know that Walrein will be able to leave otherwise. Now that we have defeated Glacia too, it's time for the hardest Elite Four, arguably. Drake could be a problem because many of his Pokémons are very strong and some of them have super effective moves. I got very lucky and Shelgon allowed me to set up multiple times with the bullcap. I also used the white herb to remove the speed debuff, and from there I went on the offensive and started sweeping with Return or Earthquake. I was a bit worried that Salamence would come out very soon and negate some of my buffs, but even with the reduction in attack, +2 was still enough to one-shot all of his Pokémons, making him a lot easier than I was expecting. Last but not least is the champion, and since I have a buffing move, I know how to deal with him. The strategy is always the same. Lower Wailord's HP so that Water Spout does not do that much damage, and from there start setting up as many times as you can. Unfortunately, I got crit by a double edge this time, which ignores my defense buff and deals a lot of damage. Then he uses a few water spouts, bringing me very low, so I have to cut my buffing short. Thanks to my great base attack, even if I am not at +6, this should be enough to deal with his team. Also, Gyarados does not come out very soon, which is extremely helpful since it allows me to keep as many buffs as possible for the longest amount of time. Milotic is last, and much like the rest of the team, he too falls to one return, and with that we have acquired the champion belt of this region. Heracross was kinda hard to play, but that might have been mostly my fault, because I did not play him very well at all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, etc. If you have any questions, feedback, video ideas or anything else, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye!